now we'll start with access management, the last process. The access management, as the name suggests, providing access to authorized users, the right to use a service. So this is also part of the operations. When new employees join from the business side, from the customer side, you will provide the necessary access. It's not only granting the access, it's also monitoring and tracking the access if it is being rightly used. I give access to your printer. Are you rightly using it or are you misusing it? Or if there are any promotions or demotions happen, whether the user access has been promoted or demoted accordingly or not, or if any change in the geography from this branch you move to US branch, so the access has to be revoked here and the new access has to be provided in the other location, and terminating the access if a person resigns, right? All these things will be done by this process called access management, and these access provision or revoking the access and all, it will be done as part of your request fulfillment, service request only, right? So access management is granting access to authorized users, the right to use a service, while preventing access to unauthorized users. And remember, access management will not decide what access should be provided to whom. The level of access, they can't decide it. Who will decide it? Which process will decide it? In design, service design, you have a process called IT security management, if you can remember and recall. They will decide who should have what access. These are only operation level, they only enforce that security policy. So this access management is a very petty process at operations level. They can't decide. They are like security guards outside your office. The security guards, they can't decide who should be allowed inside, whether they should be allowed to bring the laptop or mobiles. No, somewhere at the top they will decide, they will only enforce it. So even here, similarly, the access management will enforce the policies defined by information security management and availability management. Availability management will tell when should the information be made available. Accordingly, they will provide access during that time. For example, if you are writing an entrance examination, engineering entrance examination, when the access to the key should be provided, after the examination, the access should be provided. So till that time, the access management will not give access to the users on the website. Once the examination is completed, the key to this examination will be provided. So the availability management team will tell when it should be made available, at what point in time. So they only enforce. So the grant, what are the objectives? The grant authorized users the right to use a service and deny access to another user. Same like purpose you are seeing here. And they execute policies and actions defined in security and availability management. Again, whatever the security policies, availability policies are there, they will execute. They are only the implementers. So the primary work of access management is to protect the CIA of data. What is this CIA? C stands for confidentiality. I stands for integrity. A stands for availability. So they protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. What is the difference between confidentiality, integrity, and availability? Confidential, making the data confidential, ensuring that only the right person will have access to the data or information. Normally, you control it through passwords. Passwords, you are making the information confidential. You will get a credit card report. It's a password protected. Why it's a password protected? It's confidential to you. Protecting the integrity of the data. What do you mean by protecting the integrity of the data? Protecting the correctness of the data, whether the data is correct or not, protecting the correctness of the data. How do you do that? By read access, write access, you do that. For example, what access are you given to the HR policy which is there in your company portal? You'll have only read access. Here it's not confidential. They're protecting the integrity by restricting the access there, privilege. What if write access is given to a HR policy to all the employees? Then the integrity of the HR policy is a big question mark. And then availability of organization's data, making it available at the right time. So CIA stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So Access management will make sure that the CIA is done related to the information. And access management will make sure that the information is available at all agreed times. Uh, uh, Sorry, it gives a right to use a service, but if it is not available, that is not their headache. See, for example, I give access to you, I will make the data available to you to access. If the system is unavailable, you are not responsible for that. It's availability management. System is down, thereby you are not able to access. So you have to understand that if the information is not made available, that's not your headache. And what is the value to the business? If access management is a separate process is there, the business information will be confidential. To the business users, it will give the right level of access, thereby the integrity will be protected. The auditing will be done well. There will be some regulations pertaining to the business. For example, you are working in a as an IT department for a bank. There will be many regulations that are imposed by the government related to the access. So in a bank, the government regularize it, come up with a regulation saying that the information of the bank account holder should not be disclosed to others. Like there are certain regulations like SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley Act. It's to avoid the corporate frauds in the US. No, in the corporates, like we had a fraud in an IT company, Satyam, in India, to avoid such. So by restricting the access, you make sure that you are following the regulations. The business, the customer is following his regulations. So through IT access, you will protect the regulations that are imposed on the business. Can you have policies? Yes. According to the changes, you have to align the access also. If a person is getting promotion according to change, you have to maintain the access. You have to maintain accurate access history. Who accesses what at what time. You have to clearly define the procedures in handling security events. If because of incorrect access, the security breaches happen. So how do you handle that? How do you inform? You should inform the security team. Someone is trying to access an application where he is not supposed to authorize. He is not authorized to access it. You have to escalate it to the right appropriate authorities. A clearly defined procedure should be in place. And there are certain concepts like what is an access, identity. Identity is something where the user has to prove. This is a challenge also actually. Identity is something which you have to prove that it's what you are. That you are employee of Nokia company, you are employee of HCL, your identity card will help. Otherwise, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can ask. Rights. Rights are privileges. We already discussed. Read, WRIT, write, save, delete. You will have access, but you may not have the right to delete, the right to save. Rights are also called as privileges. Normally, access management will be done at a service level or a group of services. And tools which are used to manage the access, they are called directory services. Like your Active Directory tool. This tool is useful to provide access to all the users in the environment. Remember, for access management, tools and technology is very, very important. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Through tool, you have to manage. The access will be revoked through a tool to the data center. Those tools are very important. Those tools are called directory services. Your LDAP, your Active Directory. And this is a process chart. So you will get an access request through a change request or through a service request, some new employee join, or through service or human resources request like a new employee join, or an application script or request. Applications also need access to run on the server. It's not only the people. An application to run on a particular server, it should be added in the server. The access should be given to the application. They will receive the access through different sources and you do the verification. Is he a valid user? Okay, he is employee of the company, agreed. But is it a valid request? You are an employee, doesn't mean that you will have access to go everywhere. You don't have, why are you asking for access to data center? Is it a valid request? Yep. Yes, it's a valid request. Then you will provide the necessary rights, or it can be related to the access removal also, and you will provide the rights, and you will log and track. You have to track whether he is rightly using or misusing it, and you will do the checking and monitoring as well. Right people having the right access is very important. So based on the promotions or demotions or based on the movements into different geographies, you'll do that. And if you while tracking you find any incident, he is misusing it, you will raise an incident ticket and you'll inform the security people, the security management process, that so and so misuse has been happening, right? This is typically the process chart for access management. And what are the triggers for this access management? Anyone requesting for access, or a request for human resources, or an RFC, request for change, right? These are the various triggers for access management. What inputs you require? The most important one is the information security policies. I told you information security team will decide who should have what access. They're only the implementers. And the SLAs and OLAs related to this access. How much time you take to provide the access? You need an SLA for this. You need these inputs. And what are the outputs? Provision of access or rejection of access. The tickets related to the access management. The communications what you make, whether the access has been provided or the access has been rejected, or any security related threats have you observed, you will communicate. And what are the interfaces? Access management, information security is the main interface. Service catalog, IT service continuity, SLM, change, SCCM, request fulfillment, all these process in a way or the other, they are related to this access management. They interface with them. And what are the critical success factors? Using access management, you have to protect the CIA. What is CIA? We discussed confidentiality, integrity, and availability by using this access management. What are the KPIs? Number of incidents caused by incorrect access settings. You are not given for incorrect access, you are given incorrect access, so how many incidents happen? How many incidents have raised because of inappropriate security access you have provided? It means you are not doing the CIA properly. Number of audit findings related to incorrect access settings. You have done an audit and you found that out of 100 access you have provided, there's 10% discrepancy. How many incidents were raised to reset an access? That will tell whether you are doing your job properly or not. And timely provision of access is very important. That's very important. If you are given access to a movie, after completion there is no fun. Before the movie starts, you should be given the access. Timely basis. It means how many have you resolved within SL, within the OLE? Communications are very important. Any security breaches you have observed or misuse of access is observed, you should communicate. So how many incidents happened and how much time you have taken to communicate? After incident happens, you'll say, yeah, I also observed while I was monitoring, I observed that he's trying to access the application. Then why didn't you communicate? Why did you allow the incident to happen? Challenges. The biggest challenge is the tool. Having a proper tool is a challenge. Monitoring is a challenge. I gave you access to printer. Are you misusing it? How can I do it? I should run behind you. Or of late you are having the state of art technologies, right? Before printing, you have to enter your employee ID or you have to swipe with your card, right? And you are not allowed more than 10 prints. So you'll be monitoring those ways, like who is taking how many printouts. That's a challenge. You need good tools for that, good technologies for that to monitor. Verifying the identity that the person is who they say they are. So you are the person. How do you prove? Verifying the identity of the approving person. Sometimes it so happens they'll come to you, they'll ask, hey, give me access to the data center. I got my manager approval. Who is your manager? Who is he to approve? He is the right person to approve. You should get from CEO, right? Verifying whether he's the right person to approve or not is a challenge. Verifying whether your user qualifies for this is a challenge. And multiple access rights to an individual user is a challenge. Sometimes linking multiple access rights to an individual user. One user will have access, different multiple access. You should have access only read towards it, but this section you should have edit access. That section you should have delete access. For this document you should have save access. It's a challenge managing multiple access for a single user. Or sometimes on deputation, you'll be given additional responsibilities. Your manager is going on leave, so he gave access to you to approve the timesheets. You should have access only towards the timesheets. You should not have access to checking his appraisals or checking the appraisal of your colleagues. So there will be some conflict sometimes. And determining the status of users at any time at a business level, whether he's area manager or regional manager, that communication will not happen to you, that information will not come to you. If he's regional manager, he should have access to the entire region, whether the employee is still there or not, or he moved to a different geography. If the business doesn't inform you that the person went to a different geography, different location, as an IT, how do you know? How do you revoke the access here? They should inform you. And that shake hand will not happen properly. Handshake will not happen properly. And restricting access rights to unauthorized users is a challenge. And managing changes to user access requirements is a challenge. Today the user should have this access. Again tomorrow he should be given the other access. So the business, from the business perspective, the changes will happen and you have to manage these changes. And maintaining a record which will maintain all the information about the access. What is the net access you are having in the organization? You have read access to this document, you have edit access to this, you have save access to this. What is the net overall? Where can I find this information? You should have state of the art tools to manage that. What are the risks? Any challenges, if you leave them, they become risk. Having a tool is a challenge. If you are not having a tool is a risk. So not having good tools or support technologies is a very big risk related to access management. Controlling access from back doors is also a challenge. So you know someone, business user will come to you. You are an internal IT. He will ask, hey, give me this access. So backdoor, okay, he's friend of mine, or he's a. So without taking approvals, you will provide the access. And if you don't properly control the access to vendors, third-party suppliers, they may sabotage your system. Right? The vendor should be given proper access, limited access. Otherwise, there's a risk of data thefts. There's your integrity of the data will be a big question mark. So that is also a risk. If you don't control your vendors properly, it's a risk. And you should have management support for access management. Sometimes you get many requests which are not part of the process or part of the system. So someone say HR head, hey, I'm telling you give the access, man. But there should be a proper written request to give the access. But they don't support you, right? And the controls also should be very minimal so that it doesn't become a bureaucracy. For everything you need approval and all. So the business will be slowed down. Even that should be managed properly.